When we talk about how all of these people have been put by Trump in charge of departments to pervert the mission of that department, it isn't just a narrative, it isn't just a hypothetical, it has an effect on people's actual lives, and we have an example of that today. So this is Housing and Urban Development. You've got Ben Carson there, who apparently was put there to just continually brutalize the people who depend on this department for housing assistance and things like that. It's historically designed to help out low-income Americans to make sure that they don't end up homeless. And so what are they doing today? Tripling the rent of people who receive assistance from HUD. It's amazing. It's like if I set up a parody site like The Onion, but purely designed to say, here are my fears, but they're coming true on a daily basis. And so the cap on rent for the poorest families would rise to about $150 a month, 3 times higher than the existing $50 ceiling. This is going to affect 712,000 households, several million people. And here is what I hope. I hope that you look at that number and, like me, think, I could cover it. I hope that you have that ability, but understand that for the people who need HUD assistance to live in a house at all or an apartment at all, adding over $1,000 of additional rent when you're making on average maybe $17,000, maybe less for some, that they just decided, oh, 10% of your income, you didn't need that. We're just gonna claw that back for the government. That's what he was there. That's what he was put in that position to do, and now it's going to happen.
Well, we see this coming down from the top. Remember when Ben Carson said that poverty was a state of mind, and he always uses his own rags to riches story as sort of an example, and that's great that he was able to navigate his way out of poverty. But that was a while ago, and it's just incredibly just narrow in his view of what poverty and what low income looks like in America in 2018. It's just, he's so out of touch, and it just goes with this pattern of Trump appointees in the administration who are so wildly unqualified and uninterested to learn about this department that they've been appointed to. And it's heartbreaking. And this is affecting, how many families is it again? How many, it's
712,000 households would see, as of right now. Of course, that number will go up every year, but
I mean, that's insane. I mean, and this is having a real impact. Like you said, I think it's great. This is not hypothetical. These actions are having a real impact on families, on lives, and I think this is a lot of explaining that needs to happen.
And probably won't. I don't know. I mean, this story came out more than a day ago. Is it gonna make news? Maybe for a day. I honestly don't know. But what's interesting about this is, so one of the core missions of myself in this industry and the Damage Report is fighting income inequality. And we think of it as this, income inequality is this thing. It's a blanket laying over our country. It develops over a long time. Well, yeah, it does, but it also comes about as a result of specific policy changes. This is one of those. For these people, several million Americans who are already the worst off in our society, their struggle just became 10 to 15% more difficult. And think about what effect that's gonna have on their lives. I mean, all these families are not gonna be able to go on some sort of vacation each year to the French Riviera. No, they're not gonna be able to pay for medicine or schooling or God knows what, food, maybe? What are they gonna cut? What do you think they're spending that money on now that they can so easily hand it off to Ben Carson? A man who, by the way, let's remind you of this, he's been in a little bit of trouble recently for spending habits, and it's not over rent. Here's a statement from CBC. This Congressional Black Caucus Chairman, Representative Cedric Richmond said, "It's ironic that a man who used taxpayer dollars to buy a $30,000 dining room table for the federal agency he leads wants to raise rent on poor people." So he spent twice as much as many of the people who he's now oppressing make in a year. He spent that on a dining room table, not even at his house, at one of the places that he works.
So what do you think is the incentive, the motive here? Because do you think that I don't think that Ben Carson is bright enough or awake enough to be malicious. I think that this is a very out of touch decision that for some reason has been presented to him as attractive for his department. What do you think is going on here?
I will give him enough credit to say he could be malicious.
You do think so?
Yeah, look, I don't think that he's necessarily as 24/7 driven by hatred for poor people as some of the other people in the administration, but I think that he is uninterested in their struggle. I think he knows what he was put there to do. I think that this is a great way to both to continue to, at least on a low level, demonize the people who receive government assistance by implying that they always could have been paying more. We were just going easy on them. And that's sort of one of the driving philosophies right now is higher work requirements, higher contribution, all that stuff. And so I think that's the case, but also it's to not give as much money out to the poor. I mean, they want to cut that.
Yeah.
We just did huge rounds of tax cuts, $1.8 trillion plus. Got to pay for that somehow.
Yeah.
It's going to be on the backs of poor people who now pay higher rent. So that's going on. I hope that there will be hard questions of him, especially considering his own scandals, but we will have to wait and see if that actually finds out.